afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to Mental Health Topics Evening. We are really sorry for coming up late. We had a little network issues. That was why we come up late and started a little bit late. We are so sorry. Okay, so you're welcome to Mental Health Topics Evening. So today we are going to be talking about in relation to the World Mental Health Day. So we had the World Mental Health Day on the 10th of October, which was on Sunday. And the theme for this year is Mental Health for All, making it a reality. So we all can make it a reality, right? So that's what we'll be talking about. But before we start, before we go into the topic, this program, as you all know, is brought to you by Grace Hill Behavioral Health Services, Psychiatric Management Facility and Drug Rehabilitation. So this program is also held every Wednesday by 3 p.m. So in case you missed our previous sessions, you can go over to our YouTube channel at Grace Hill Behavioral Health Services to watch our previous videos and sessions. So now to the topic, I have here with me Belema. So she's my co-host, and she comes from time to time to also give the awareness on mental health. So today we are going to be talking on generally our mental health, because so far the truth is some people really do not, despite the level of awareness, some persons actually still do not understand what mental health is. So when you talk about mental health, the first thing that comes to the mind is, oh, there is a man walking on the streets naked and all that, not in line with thoughts. But it's actually more than that. So when we talk about mental health, it's way more than that.
Yes, that's very true. A lot of us had that impression. Even myself, for a long while, mental illness was basically about people that you see on the street. So if somebody says, oh, I'm going to psychiatric hospital, I'm going to psychiatric facility, for instance,
there's usually this stereotype attached to it.
This person, something is wrong and all that. Yeah. But, well, it happened. A lot of us had that opinion, had that wrong assumption. And some of us have, learned and are now open, now know that that is not what it is. Yeah. So I'll start by defining what mental health is according to WHO. So the WHO defines mental health as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his own or her own abilities, copes with the normal stresses of life, works productively and fruitfully, and makes a contribution to his or her community.
Yeah.
So what that means is that for you to be healthy, to have a good mental health, you should have the capacity, to be able to go through life. You understand the resilience and all that. So you'll be able to make meaningful interactions, meaningful conversations with people that are respectful. So it's for you to be aware. Have a subjective opinion about your well-being. You're optimistic. That's just what it's about. You understand? So mental illness actually is a very important part of mental health.
Yeah,
it's very important part of our total well-being.
Definitely. Yeah. So aside that, I've also discovered that mental health is an integral part of health. Just like what you said, it's very important. So it's also very connected intimately with our physical health and behavior. So you can't talk about physical health without talking about mental health. So something as simple as, when someone is having a mental disorder or having mental health issues, the first thing you will notice, which also cuts across almost all mental disorders, is that they stop taking care of themselves. They stop taking care of their physical health, and it's really very important. Everybody must know this, because it cuts across all ages, both for the young, the old, the youth, everybody. It's also very important.
Yes, and also, like we said, we used to have the impression or the assumption of a lot of Nigerians about mental illness used to be very bad. A lot of people still have those opinions. They still have the stigma about mental illness. But we know that recently people have become more aware, especially to things like suicide or depression and all that. Before, we used to say things like that. Maybe someone says he has anxiety, or someone says he has depression. We say it's a white man's illness, the white man's disease. How can a Nigerian be depressed? How can a Nigerian want to commit suicide?
But it's actually more now these days. The rate at which depression is increasing, it's really...
We'll say it's more, and we'll also say it's because people are also aware that this is depression. A while ago, if you tell someone you're depressed, they'll be like, this person does not know what is wrong. This person doesn't have problems and all that. But people know now that this is depression, and when they feel some certain kind of ways, they can go to a therapist, and then be properly diagnosed that this is depression. My point is, a report by WHO in 2017 says that about 7 million Nigerians suffer from depression. And depression is one of the most ignored and misunderstood form of mental disorder in our country. It also says that about 5 million Nigerians, that is 2.7% of our population, suffer from anxiety disorders. So mental disorders, mental illness is something that is around us. So it's very important for us to be aware. Very important for us to know that this thing happens, you understand? Yes. And it's only when you know that this thing is a problem or this thing is an issue that you would now take the next step. To get treatment and go into recovery and all that.
Yeah, so also we also discovered that 1 of every 10 pregnant women experience one form of mental illness, and it's called postpartum depression. So before now we've talked about postpartum depression in women, and that's to tell you that it cuts across everybody, right? It cuts across everybody, and it is very, very important you know the symptoms, and you'll be able to tell that, okay, so when something is wrong and when you are mentally stressed, you should be able to tell. Like, I was having a conversation with someone some days back, and we were talking about stress reliever. So I was like, oh, okay, so there's a particular activity like I like doing when I'm stressed, and immediately I do that, or maybe I watch a movie, or I just pick up my phone and start playing a game on my phone and all that. I'm actually relieved of that stress. So it's called self-awareness. It is very important we know this. So however, we have
we also talked about postpartum depression in men. Not just women.
Yes. So we also talked about postpartum depression in men. So it's not just women that also suffers postpartum depression. Men too also suffers postpartum depression. Yes. You're wondering how? I'll refer you to our YouTube channel. You can go over Grace Hill Behavioral Health Services and watch the video. It's on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it and ask your question and all. So I was going to talk about the approach to understanding mental health. We have various approaches. We have the biological approach, we have the psychological approach, and we have the social context. Now, the biological approach talks about genetic vulnerability. So in one of our previous videos or one of our previous sessions, I believe we talked about some of the causes of mental illness, which is genetic. So it is genetic. It could or it can be inherited from the family. So it's an approach to understanding what mental illness is. In fact, I've even seen a case where all three of them in the family has mental illness. So it's something that everybody needs to be aware. So when so many persons in a family has mental illness, there's nothing to fear about, or maybe we'll start terming it spiritual or something. I understand there could be some things going on, but then it's not everything that is spiritual. Some of these things could also be inherited, could be an inherited trait. Then we'll also talk about the immune function. Take for instance, when a woman is pregnant, or when a lady or a woman is going through a monthly flow, there are some hormonal changes that happens in the body, and this could determine or alter the mood of that particular person. So it's immune function. Then we have neurochemistry, some of the chemical activities, the neurotransmitters in the brain and all that. Then we also have stress reactivity, medication effects. These things are the biological approach to understanding your mental health. So when we talk about the medication effect, there are some medication you will take, you start seeing other side effects of that medication. So that is what we mean. Then we also talk about the psychological approach to understanding what mental health is. So something as simple as your personality. Now we all know that there's what we call personality disorder. Yeah, there's what we call personality disorder. So some persons have some, we all have different personalities. We all have different personalities, behaviors, your emotion, your past trauma events, your learning and memory ability. So we know that no man is born empty. Nobody is empty. Nobody is an island. So when you, as you grow or as you develop more, you begin to learn so many things that will definitely affect your health or your mental health. Then when we also talk about the social context, looking at the social context, we look at the social support. We look at the family background, which is also very important. In fact, some families are so toxic that you can't do anything genuinely. You will just, your mental health will be at stake, right? Then we have some culture and traditions.
Yes.
Okay, so for instance now, during the time of Mary, when they were killing twins, actually, when they were killing twins, you know, it's their culture. So I think some cultures too, I think some of those cultures will still practice, if not in Nigeria, but in Africa, I really don't know. But for some cultures, they make it seem like having twin or having a male child or a female child is something. So all those things could affect our mental health. And of course, socioeconomic effects, it's also very important. It's also very important.
Yeah, that's very true. So what I understand from what you said is that those things are like determinants.
Determinants, exactly.
Okay, yes. Okay, so those things can. Okay, I get that. So the next thing we're talking about are the risk factors to mental illness. So these are things that can predispose you to probably developing a mental illness or disorder.
Yeah.
So the first one is, there are several, there are
A
a
lot.
lot. There are a lot. So we will be talking about all of them.
A lot.
We'll be running
Yes.
through a lot of them. I'll probably just, go
So
through
during
them.
the course of the conversation, if you have any questions, you can put it in the comment section. We'll definitely see them and we'll attend to them.
Okay. So back to our risk factors. Number one, academic failure and demoralization, scholastic demoralization. Well, really, it might seem like a joke, but when people fail, especially for people that have failed repeatedly, for instance, someone wants to get into the university and then you've written jam 1,
Like
2, 3, 4, 5
times.
times. That's going to affect your mental health because aside from how you feel or how it makes you feel, the people around you are still going to make it very difficult for you. So all those things are going to cause stress, a lot of stress for you mentally, and that could affect your mental health. Child abuse and neglect. That one is actually a very big issue. For if you check several studies that have shown links between people developing mental illness and the kind of abuse and neglect that they received as children. You understand? So it's actually a big deal. That's why a lot of government NGOs try to remove children from homes that that they're suffering abuse and neglect. So chronic insomnia, not being able to sleep or not sleeping, can also affect your mental health and lead to a mental disorder. There are people that don't sleep for days. They don't sleep for 2 days. They don't sleep. They just don't want to sleep. Some people don't want to sleep. Some people can't sleep. You understand?
No matter how hard they try to sleep.
Yes. So that can also affect your mental health because you really need you need sleep to function. Your brain needs sleep. So imagine not sleeping for 2-3 days. I can imagine how it's going to be. So it's very important that you sleep. You understand? I know people want to work and are very hardworking and they have to work a lot, but for your mental illness, to protect your mental illness, it is important that you sleep. Substance use. That is something that we don't even need to overemphasize. A lot of mental illness can be linked to use and abuse of substance. So you see substance-induced schizophrenia, substance-induced bipolar disorder, and all that. And the funny thing is that a lot of people don't believe that these things happen.
Yes.
You don't believe
they
that.
Actually do. They do.
They don't believe, or they do. They don't.
Well, yes, they actually don't believe. They don't.
Yes, true. Because when you meet people that abuse substance and you tell them that, do you know that this could affect your mental health, this could lead to a mental disorder, they'll be like, no, that's not true. But it could lead to mental illness for you, long-term mental illness, if you're an abuser of substance. So if you're an abuser of substance, or you misuse substance, or you're currently just using substance, you need to be very careful, because you could get a mental illness from that. Also, exposure to aggression, violence, and trauma, yes.
Even as a child.
Family conflict and all that. All those things are risk factors that could lead to a mental illness. There are so many. There are so many.
So something as simple as poverty. Come on.
Yes.
Poverty it may sound funny, but when you are not able to provide for your basic needs, your basic day-to-day amenities, something that you need, your 3 square meal, even 2 square, or even one meal a day, it's actually can lead to so many. Yes, it can lead to so many things. It can lead to so many things. Then peer rejection. So as a young person, you've been I was watching a movie. I was seeing a movie some few days back, and in the movie the lady was actually narrating how she suffered when she was in high school, how her peers were always laughing at her, and she thought to revenge, even while as a grown-up she wanted to revenge at all costs. So even as a peer, if as a youth, if as a teenager rather, you are experiencing one form of rejection from your peers, it could affect your mental health.
Or bullying.
Yes, or bullying. It could affect your mental health. Then we talked about violence. You've talked about violence and then delinquency, war. So even though I wasn't, we are actually not around during the war and all that, but research have shown, or studies have shown, that where there is war or where there is no peace, it definitely affects your mental health. In fact, so many things will come into play. Work stress. So some of us, we actually overlook this work stress of the thing. So you can't, just know that you can't do everything. You can't do everything. Even at work, try to delegate. Do the ones you can do, and make sure you are meeting up to the standard. You are meeting up with targets. But even why you can't meet up with targets sometimes, because it's almost relatively. So sometimes we have to ensure that we reduce work stress, because it is very important.
Yes,
reduce work stress.
It is actually very important,
yes.
And people don't understand that your mental health is important. And when you break down the work that you feel like you couldn't keep aside, you still won't be able to do it then.
Definitely.
So you just overwork yourself, overload yourself. For some people, it is not their intention. It's just the nature of their job and the nature of the places that they work and all that. But the truth is that you have to always put your mental health into consideration. Once you're feeling overworked, once you're feeling stressed, once you feel like everything you're doing is just a lot, you have to find ways to take a break. You understand? Your mental health is actually important. Like she said earlier, your mental health is integrally linked to your physical health. So when you're down, when you're mentally down, it will be very difficult for you to pick yourself up to do things, physical things. Very difficult. So it's important for you to take. People take their physical health very important. Like if they are having pain or whatever, they might just go to the hospital and all that. But when it comes to the mental health, it's like, you know what, whatever. I'm strong, I can handle it. What's there? I'm not weak and all that. But it is very important to take your mental health into consideration.
Then one other thing that could also be a risk factor to developing possible risks of mental disorder is unemployment. Now, when we say mental disorder, so maybe some other time we'll talk about the types of mental illness, because like I said from the beginning, when you talk about mental illness or mental disorder, the first thing that goes to a layman, the mind of a layman, is someone walking on the street. But something as simple as depression, anxiety, those are mental disorders too. So when someone is unemployed for a very long period of time, depression sets in. Especially while you are being unemployed, you are not able to cater for your day-to-day needs. Depression definitely sets in, and that is a mental disorder that needs urgent attention, because usually we usually ignore the symptoms of depression. And like you said from the beginning when we started, you said depression is the most ignored mental illness. And in Nigeria, depression is the most ignored and underrated. So we underrate depression a lot. It's actually something that needs urgent attention. So when you see someone that is suffering through depression, that person actually needs attention more. Then of course, lack of education. Awareness is very important. Awareness is very, very important. In fact, there are a lot of risk factors. So we can't, I don't think we'll be able to exhaust everything. So I was also reading somewhere and I saw elder abuse. Now, elder abuse is something that we really need to talk about, because let me know, it's a topic for another day. So maybe maybe you should join our next session, or the session that will talk about elder abuse. But it is very important. It is, I think I really need to stress this. It is very important. Forgetting that those elders, they were once youths. And you that is abusing an elder, you're also forgetting that one day you also become an elder too. So I believe what goes around comes around. But but hey, it's okay to feel, it's okay not to feel okay, right? It is okay to feel down. It is okay to feel sad. It's okay not to feel okay. So you can be helped and be made okay. So that there's a statement that it's, you know, that said that. So it's okay to feel not okay. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay. There is no issue. So when you are sad, there is no issue. It is very fine. But what is important is you seek help. Now, briefly, let's talk about signals. Okay, I think we have a question. We have a question.
Yeah, we have a question. We'll answer that.
Okay, we'll answer that when we finish. With our conversation. Okay, so signals of poor mental health. What are those things that you should look out for that can tell you that you are having a poor mental health? What are those things? So, feeling more sad often than before. Like I said, it is okay to feel sad. It is okay to feel not okay. But when it begins to last for a long period of time, it's a signal that you actually need help. Having problem concentrating. So after a point, you discover that you can't concentrate anymore. It's actually a signal that it could be as a result of stress or any other issue that you're having. Then difficulty in remembering things. When I say difficulty in remembering things, I know this symptom actually comes with aging. That's not what I am referring to. Yeah. So, but when you cannot remember things the way you used to, and you are still a very active and young person, you should seek help. Difficulty in decision making. Some people really have difficulty in decision making. They don't know when to decide when. Excessive worries or fear. That's anxiety, panicking, these symptoms, we usually overlook them. We really need to look out for when talking about your mental health.
Yes. Some other signals or signs that you probably need to seek out a psychiatrist or therapist. That those things happen normally. But when you notice that you're having extreme mood changes, so this minute you're, let's say, excessively happy. Oh well, we cannot diagnose. Everybody is out to get you. Maybe people are trying to poison you, people are trying to kill you, or people are trying to beat you up, or people are just, wanting to do something to you, and it is not a normal feeling for you. Then that's a sign that you should seek treatment. You're also having difficulty maintaining relationships. You're able to interact with people respectfully and all that. Yeah. So when you see that you are no longer able to maintain such relationships, you and added to other signs, actually, you would know that, okay, something is wrong. Or maybe you're using alcohol, you're using drugs excessively. Change of these things happen together, so you can see several signs together. So when you see these signs together, you know that, oh, something may be wrong. So when maybe you have a little mood swing, you shouldn't just assume that I have bipolar.
Yeah.
Because some people just say I have bipolar. When they have mood swings and they're like, I have bipolar. That's not true. You can't self that.
You might need to seek medical attention, or meet a psychologist or a psychiatrist for any form of diagnosis.
Yes. So don't sit down and diagnose yourself, because we said if you have mood swings and all that,
your mood is high.
No, that's not it. So you can't diagnose yourself and all that. You have to, seek treatment from professionals and get. So some other things that are signs of poor mental health or anything is confusion, or you're having suicidal thoughts. When you're beginning to have suicidal thoughts, you're just here thinking of probably committing suicide, killing yourself and all that. Then that is actually very important. If you're having suicidal thoughts, you need to see a therapist.
Very important.
Very, very important. You need to see a therapist. Or you're hearing voices. Well, some of these signs can stand on their own.
Something like suicidal thoughts.
Yes, you don't need to wait for other accompanying signs before you before you go and seek treatment. No, when you're having suicidal thoughts, you need to seek a therapist as quickly as possible. If you're hearing voices, you need to see a psychiatrist. Please, it is very important. It is very important to seek help as quickly as possible so it can be easily managed. Just the way in physical illnesses, when you don't seek help quickly, it deteriorates and it becomes more difficult to handle. It's the same with mental illness. It is very important that you seek help as quickly as possible. As a matter of fact, it's even better you go to the therapist and the therapist tells you nothing is wrong with you, than for you to let it fester and fester until it becomes a huge problem. So other signs are agitated behavior, decline in personal hygiene, which I said before. That is a very, very important sign that somebody is having mental breakdown.
That's a sign that cuts across almost all mental disorders.
Yes. Decline in personal hygiene. So it's a very important sign. When you see somebody sometimes you can see somebody that is a neat freak, and all of a sudden the person just leaves their environment, leaves their space dirty. The person doesn't shower, doesn't want to brush their teeth, doesn't want to wash their clothes, and is smelling. Well, if the person hasn't realized that something is wrong and you're around the person, something is wrong, and so you should encourage the person to see a psychiatrist. So,
in fact, I think we've said it a lot when it comes to symptoms. We said a lot. So there are some outcomes, a result of poor mental health. So when you don't take care of your mental health, so many things can actually happen. So something as simple as family conflicts and disharmony. What?
It's
not simple. It's not simple, but in family conflicts, it could actually be as a result of poor mental health. Yeah, work and family conflicts as well. So when you begin to have a decline in your mental health, it could also affect your work. It could affect your family. It could also affect your ability to pursue major goals in life and decision. It will definitely decline your socioeconomic status, because as when you start withdrawing socially from people, not wanting to go out to earn a living or do anything, it will affect your socioeconomic status. Yes. Then you are also vulnerable to other illnesses too. When you don't take care of your mental health and you have a poor mental health, you could be vulnerable to other illnesses and reduce life expectancy. So that could also go in line with substance abuse. Yeah. So when you also abuse drugs, when you take substances that's in an improper way, that's substance abuse. So you could be exposed to other ailments, other sicknesses, and all that. So I just want you to know that a head full of fears has no space for dreams. So if you are scared of doing things, if you are scared of going for treatment for your mental illness or anything, I'm telling you, please don't be scared. Like, mental illness is just like every other illness, yeah? So just like diabetes, I would say that, just like diabetes that needs to take medication and all that, mental illness is still an illness. So there is no better definition for it. It's still an illness, so it's not something that you have. It shouldn't scare you when you heard of some people, when you tell them, please, you need to see a psychiatrist. Hey,
I'm not mad though.
I'm not mad
to see a psychiatrist, exactly. So.
You just tell you I am not mad. No, that's not what we are saying. Yeah, that's not what we are saying. It's actually more than absence of disease, just like we said. We've actually said it, but
yeah, we have. Well, so moving on to some protective factors, things that you could, do
to protect your
mental health. Things that you could do and things that people can do, because as a matter of fact, we all should be advocates of mental health.
Yes.
So there are things that we can do for ourselves. There are things that we can also do for others.
Mm-hmm.
So these are some of the things we are going to be talking about right now. Now, number one, developing interactions. It is very important to have positive interpersonal reactions, because interactions, yes, because we've talked about some risk factors to having poor mental health, and some of those things, like we talked about, bullying is a sign that you're mentally healthy. So don't always try to be a loner. Don't isolate yourself. It's important to have people around you. It's important to have your people around you. And then what we can do, some form of social responsibility and tolerance. Then social services, which governments do, some governments do, provide social services, and those are the kind of services that take away children from homes that they are being abused or violated or anything. These are some of the things that we can do. You and I can do it. There are so many NGOs that do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They take away people from places, women from places that are being abused, children from places that are being abused. You understand? It's just for the greater good of, ensuring that people live healthy or have healthy mental lives and all that. Also, you should learn conflict management skills.
Very important conflict management skills. Some of us really do not know how to manage conflicts. Really, it's I would employ you to go on Google. Because that's what we are talking about. Okay, so we may use it as a topic of discussion subsequently.
Yeah.
How to manage conflicts. This is very important, because some people really do not know how to manage conflicts, even in their workplace, at home, anywhere they are. It's important to. Okay, so we'll talk about it, but not today, please. Not today.
And so, positive parent-child interaction. That is very important, especially as a parent for your child, because sometimes you grow up in environment with your parents, and we may not be toxic, they may not even beat you, or they may not even, but the interaction between yourself and your parents can actually affect your mental, the way you approach things, and it can affect your mental health. So it's important as a parent to have a positive interaction with your child. You have to help them develop the self-esteem that they need, because there's so many things that you do as parents that will affect your child's self-esteem, and that could also lead to some form of mental disorders in the future. So having a good interaction with your children as while they grow up is very important. Positive attachment, early bonding. Your children should learn how to form and maintain relationships, especially because of the examples that you set with your relationships with them, and that will help them when it comes to interacting with people and rebuilding and maintaining communities when they grow up. So about that, early cognitive stimulation.
So something as good problem-solving skills, Problem solving skills also go hand in hand with conflict management.
Yes, actually.
So it goes hand in hand. Then stress management. Earlier I talked about knowing your size, taking simple exercises in the morning. Exercise. When you exercise, some simple minor exercises that you could also do.
Help you.
Yeah. Then self-esteem, you also need to build. When you build your self-esteem, it will definitely protect your mental health. It is very important. Literacy, please take out time to know what mental illness is. So if you have a family member or a relative that is suffering from, or you that is having a relative that is stable, is knowing about that mental illness. It is very important. Literacy is very important. Awareness is very important. Education is very important. When you are aware, knowledge is power. So when you are aware of the types of mental illness that could happen, it will definitely help you protect the mental health. Your medication and going for therapy, which is very, very important. So even if you have mental illness, it doesn't mean that everything is over. Yeah, it should not define you. Your mental illness should not define you. Instead, your strength and your courage should. So thank you so much. I think we have questions. That's the end of our. Okay, yeah. So before we call the lecture off, the first way is to seek help.
Yes.
So all these things that we've said, if you are noticing any of these symptoms or any of these symptoms with your family member or a friend, so what's the most caffeine in Coke?
I believe person is saying what as in
the
caffeine in Coke, what does it do to our
mind?
okay. Caffeine basically increases alertness, right?
Yeah, it makes you alert.
Makes you alert.
Yeah, I hope it was helpful. Have our network back. Okay, I think that's the question. That's it. Sorry. Okay. Thank you so much for joining in this section of mental health talk with Evelyn. I hope to have you next time. Even you that is and also